be here and join us for today's kickoff. A few quick housekeeping items is, like I mentioned, everyone's going to be muted for the time being. If you have any questions throughout today's presentation, though, and today's kickoff, because we know this is a fresh thing and we know this kickoff was kind of last minute. If you have any questions regarding Giving Tuesday, the program with Rockefeller Foundation or anything like that throughout today's presentation, feel free to drop those in the questions pane. And what we're going to be doing is spending the latter half of today really digging into those questions and kind of answering as many as we can and kind of surfacing them back so that we can follow up afterwards. But just to give kind of an overview of Giving Tuesday, we're going to go ahead and dive into the presentation. So for those that know, since we're going to spend so much time together, I guess, during or throughout this boot camp over the next few weeks as we lead up to Giving Tuesday and follow up of Giving Tuesday, I want to kind of give an overview of who I am. So my name is Noah Barnett, and I actually run marketing here at Cosvox. And Cosvox is partnering with the Rockefeller Foundation on this initiative to not only just equip you with the tools that you need and the trainings you need to run a successful Giving Tuesday campaign, but also with our software that I'll kind of share a little bit more about in a minute. And so I run marketing here at Cosvox. I'm a husband and father of 3 sons. I've actually been fundraising for about 10 years and spent the majority of my time in nonprofits, actually working for international humanitarian nonprofits as the director of growth, which kind of sat between communications and development to help really bring kind of a holistic view of our supporters across the organization so it wasn't siloed and we could really grow our impact as an organization together rather than kind of siloed off. And prior to joining Cosvox to run marketing, I was actually one of our customers for about 5 years. And so just to share a little bit more about Cosvox, just so you kind of understand a little bit about us. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to drop those in the questions pane. But Cosvox was started in 2010 as an online fundraising platform really focused and designed for nonprofits and more specifically small teams at nonprofits. So what we saw is that there was a huge gap in the tools and technology that smaller nonprofits or those at least have small fundraising resources were able to use to do fundraising online and mobilize their supporters to help them raise money on their behalf. And so Rob and Jeff, our 2 co-founders, actually created Cosvox to help fill the gap of this need. And we've continued to grow, and we help over 1,000 or 1,500 nonprofits every single year who use our software to build donation pages on their website, to build fundraising sites, specifically for things like Giving Tuesday or year-end giving, and then also for peer-to-peer fundraising, where you can really enable your supporters to go out and raise money on your behalf. And this entire experience is all branded and designed for you because we want to ensure that you're able to showcase your organization's brand, your organization's story across all of your fundraising assets, even online. We know that that's super important, really helps build loyalty and trust with your supporters. We back this all up with kind of a fundraising CRM, which kind of centrally tracks and organizes all your supporters so that you can not only see who gave, how much they've given, what they've given to, but also how much money they've raised on your behalf. And so we really give you kind of a holistic view of your supporter so that you can make sure you're really maximizing the full value of your supporter community to help grow your impact. And we provide you some insights and metrics in the tool to really give you visibility into the data that matters and all the recent activity that's going on across all your fundraising assets. And so specifically through this partnership, Cosvox is actually providing not only these trainings and kind of hands-on help to help you plan your Giving Tuesday campaign, but you're actually able to use our software if you need it to be able to build out your dedicated fundraising campaign and site for Giving Tuesday. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that throughout today's presentation, but that's really where we're coming in to kind of help support the Rockefeller Foundation's initiative through this training or through this bootcamp. We also provide all of our customers, and you all will have access to this as well if you choose to use Cosvox to run your Giving Tuesday campaign, is real people to really help you raise the funds that you need. tailored onboarding, success coaching, and all of that. And I'm actually going to introduce one of our members of that team in just a few minutes. We've helped a bunch of organizations, but really, ultimately, at Cosvox, we're really driven by this belief that together we can help good flourish. And so we're really excited to be able to partner together with the Rockefeller Foundation on this initiative for Giving Tuesday. Again, if there's any questions about Cosvox, Giving Tuesday, or kind of this Giving Tuesday Bootcamp, you can definitely drop those in the questions pane of today's meeting, and we'll kind of dive into those together towards the end of the call. But ultimately, the goal of this initiative is really to help you use Giving Tuesday, which is a global day of giving, as an opportunity to really test out how you can run an online fundraising campaign to really engage individuals and engage supporters that are going to help you drive further impact for your organization's effort. And so what I would love to know is how many of you are familiar with Giving Tuesday or have participated in Giving Tuesday previously? You can just note that down in the chat. And I wanted to kind of feel out what level of questions someone has about Giving Tuesday, or kind of the experience level our grantees or participants have today on the call. So if you can just drop that in the chat pane, that would be really helpful. So all of us can kind of see who's who and what type of experience you all have with Giving Tuesday. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for you guys to share some of those responses, Joyce, we can definitely dig into that a little bit, but we may have to kind of dive into that offline with you directly, just to ensure that you can kind of answer your question appropriately and you have all the information you need. So Melissa and Joyce, you're both very familiar with Giving Tuesday. Sophia says this last year was the first. It looks like Velez also said this last year they did a first campaign. David Perry from DataKind is aware of Giving Tuesday and thinks it's a great campaign, but hasn't run a campaign yet. This is a great opportunity for you, Dave, so I'm excited to have you as a part of this cohort. Last year we did Giving Tuesday. Yeah, excellent. Great. Well, I appreciate that input. That's really helpful for our team as kind of the support side of this bootcamp to really know how we can best help you. So those that are familiar with it, we're going to really help you provide maybe some best practices or some insights that can help you enhance your campaigns and really help you drive further results. For those that have dabbled in it or tested, or those that haven't, we're really going to be able to provide you kind of a framework that you can use to drive success on Giving Tuesday. But not only that, really that you can use to drive success in other fundraising initiatives that you have. We're really hoping through this initiative to not only prepare you for Giving Tuesday, but help draw out learnings that are going to help you drive success in your other fundraising efforts. So just a quick overview of Giving Tuesday before we kind of dive into some of the deeper trainings. Giving Tuesday is a global giving movement that has been built by individuals, families, and organizations in countries around the world. And so this is something we find, like when we host trainings, which we've just wrapped up a series of 4 trainings where we've had a couple thousand nonprofits come through our trainings to really learn about this. The thing we hear the most feedback on is that people are surprised on kind of the nature of what Giving Tuesday is. And that's not just something where nonprofits say, hey, it's Giving Tuesday, support our organization, but rather Giving Tuesday was really this movement designed to help give a platform for individuals and other entities to really showcase their generosity and come together in support and championing the causes they believe in the communities they live. And so that was really the intention of Giving Tuesday. So a lot of the dialogue in the nonprofit space is on how can we participate? How can we really maximize this? But the true kind of heartbeat of Giving Tuesday was for individuals. And so what we see is that the opportunity for nonprofits is not just by participating, but is actually how do you actually give a platform to mobilize individuals that support and care about your cause to showcase that to others and express their generosity on Giving Tuesday. And so it's a little nuanced, but I think it's helpful to keep these facts in mind as you think about designing your campaign, because it's less about just participating again and more about how do you actually mobilize and equip your supporters and those that believe in your cause to really showcase that to others and like-minded individuals in their communities, so that you can acquire and reach new donors. This year's Giving Tuesday is on November 27th, which is in about 4 or 5 weeks, I believe, 4 weeks. And Giving Tuesday is for all types of organizations. So regardless, I know we have quite a range of different types of nonprofits that are participating in this program, but know that Giving Tuesday is really for all types of organizations. And we've seen schools, local nonprofits, global development nonprofits across the board, foundations, educational institutions, and then even businesses that have a social purpose really participate in this and drive a lot of value from it. Last year, there was 2.5 million gifts given to charitable causes, and that was, or 2.5 million gifts, and that equated to about $300 million. And so from the last time I looked, Giving Tuesday, I think, is the second most charitable day of the year now, because of these stats, second to only the last day of the year, December 31st. So it's an incredibly important kind of day where there's a lot of activity, but with kind of the increased attention and participation, it's actually made it quite difficult to really stand out and kind of make your campaigns feel unique and different, and not kind of just blend into the crowd. And so what we're hoping is that some of these trainings, especially the training that we're going to do next week on promoting your campaign, you'll be able to really elevate that above the noise and have a different conversation with your supporters that makes it feel more authentic and draws people to come together to support your cause. So as you're thinking about your Giving Tuesday campaign, what we've seen is that there's 5 really good reasons to participate. And each of these reasons really accompanies a different way that you might structure your campaign. And so there's no one way that you can structure your campaign. It really depends on your goals, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But here are 5 good reasons. And personally, these are some of the reasons that when I was running Giving Tuesday campaigns for the international relief nonprofit we had, these are some of the things that we really thought about. And as we work with our other customers here at CauseVox, these are some of the common things that we see. And so the first one is one of the most common ways is that there's a very specific need and outcome that you're trying to raise money for. So this might be a specific program gap. It might be to help enhance a program. It might even just to be or to help fund a specific amount of impact that your organization's having. So as kind of a simple example of this would be you're trying to raise $20,000 to help feed 100 new families in the communities for an entire year through your local food bank. Or it might be that we need $23,000 to help expand a program, which is going to allow us to have 40% more impact as we look into 2019. And so this is very clear, specific needs, and you're just running your Giving Tuesday campaign to kind of accommodate that or to help fill the gaps on that. The second thing that we see most common is kicking off or kind of an integration of Giving Tuesday into your year-end fundraising. And so how can you actually use Giving Tuesday as more of a milestone, a part of your broader year-end fundraising efforts? So again, typically for a specific need or impact outcome, but you're not just focused on the 24 hours of giving, but rather using that as a launch point and or kind of a benchmark, or not a benchmark, a milestone in your year-end fundraising. So for example, last year we had an organization called Volo Kids Foundation who came and used our platform, and they're a customer of ours, to run a 60-day year-end fundraising campaign. And so Giving Tuesday fell in the middle of that, and they used that to really remobilize their supporters and their audience that they were able to reach out to continue supporting the campaign. So that's a great way to use Giving Tuesday. The third thing is to try something new. A lot of organizations that come through and kind of use CauseVox's platform will be looking to try peer-to-peer fundraising for the first time, and they're using Giving Tuesday as kind of a place to test some of that out. And so peer-to-peer fundraising is where you kind of equip your supporters to go out and raise money on your behalf. And so Giving Tuesday is a way for you to try something new along those lines. The fourth point is that individuals are looking to engage their current supporters, so those that have already really donated and supported your cause this year. Giving Tuesday is a great way to kind of come back and use as a donor engagement tool to either get them to give again or to commit in a different way, whether that's volunteering or helping to share and promote a campaign. And so instead of just about raising more money, you can actually get it to, you can really measure success on engagement. Like how much engagement can you drive from your current supporters? And then ultimately, how does that engagement actually lead to increased retention of those supporters that engaged? So one thing we saw in our campaigns that we ran is the more that we could engage individuals in different ways. So not just giving financially, but maybe it's volunteering, attending a trip, going to an event, sharing posts, reading stories, inviting others to support our cause as well. We saw those cohorts of donors really increase their retention rates. And so we focused throughout the year, and Giving Tuesday was one of those opportunities on how we could actually engage supporters in a new and different way than just asking them for money again. And then the last one is corporate partner development. This is a great opportunity at Giving Tuesday to really reach out to maybe sponsors that you have or other business entities that you might be partnering with in different ways. Organizations like that are always looking for ways to kind of engage in social initiatives. And more businesses, even here at CauseVox, we get inquiries all the time. Businesses are looking for, how do we participate in this? And that might be because they want to showcase that they want to support these types of movements as well. Or they're looking for employee engagement opportunities, where they might want to use the day to actually engage their employees in Giving Tuesday efforts on behalf of a local nonprofit or a charity that really aligns with what their values and intentions are as an organization. So these are some great ways to think. And I think these, like if you haven't developed a clear strategy on kind of how you're going to approach Giving Tuesday and what your goals are or what your intentions are, I hope some of these ideas might kind of broaden the design space that you'll have with you and your team to think about how you could use Giving Tuesday effectively. So I know the Rockefeller Foundation team sent out some overviews on what this bootcamp was going to look like, but I just wanted to provide an overview of how, or some of the involvement that CauseVox is going to have as part of the bootcamp and what that roadmap looks like, just to kind of set expectations. I know this meeting was kind of slightly last minute, so I wanted to give you as much information ahead of time as possible so that you can plan accordingly over the next 4 weeks leading up to Giving Tuesday. And so today is October 30th. We're obviously kicking off the bootcamp, and we're going to be focusing on providing kind of a framework for you to really create an effective plan. Following today's presentation, we're also going to provide you a series of additional webinar trainings that you can dig into if you find them helpful. We're also going to provide you a planning guide that's really a detailed guide on how you can run an effective campaign. It includes a checklist and reiterates a lot of the points that I'm going to share today. We're also going to provide you a video overview on how you can actually set up your campaign on CauseVox so that you can have a dedicated fundraising site for your campaign, and a promotion webinar that's a preview for what we're going to be diving into next week during our training. So all of that is going to be yours to be able to use and access in whatever way is helpful for you and your team as you plan your campaign this year. After today's kickoff, once you've participated in this kickoff, and if you're looking to use CauseVox to help really enhance and grow your campaign, this is a part of what Rockefeller Foundation is offering. And so I'd highly recommend doing that. Highly recommend doing that. And this is going to be over the next few weeks, really helping you get onboarded. So this is going to be one-on-one with you and your team, and our head of the head of CauseVox's customer team, Candice Cody. And before we go any further, I was actually going to give Candice the opportunity. Candice, you're with us. You've joined us as well.
Yeah, hey everyone. Really excited to kind of kick off this Giving Tuesday onboarding. So I run customer success here at CauseVox. And so over the last 3.5 years, I've had the privilege of working with thousands of organizations, helping them get trained on how to use CauseVox, help them set up their campaigns to succeed, and help also provide strategy sessions as they're running their campaigns and even post-campaigns, so they can really make the most of CauseVox and reach and exceed their fundraising goals. So after this training today, I'll be reaching out to everyone to set up a one-on-one training session so I can walk you through the product firsthand and also get a sense of your plan, and we can kind of build out our onboarding plan from there, where I'll also assist you in setting up and assist you in helping you launch the campaign, as well as providing some check-ins throughout the campaign as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with you all, and please feel free to use me as a resource anytime. I'm here to help.
Thanks, Candace. And as part of the follow-up to this and Candace's initial outreach, she'll provide you her direct email. So you'll be able to connect with her as well throughout the boot camp to really focus in on how we can help you amplify your campaign this year. All the trainings are really going to provide you best practices and tips and give you a foundation. But those one-on-one sessions with Candace are really going to help you dig in on your campaign specifics and really drive that forward. So we're grateful for Candace, and she's an awesome asset for anybody on our team or anyone as part of the boot camp. So next week is the next training. So on November 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern time again. So basically we're going to have a training this week, next week, and the following week leading up to the week of Thanksgiving. And then we're going to take a break and then obviously come back with Giving Tuesday. So next week we're going to be talking about campaign promotions. How do you effectively stand above the noise on Giving Tuesday? How can you uniquely promote your campaign? So we're going to be diving through that. And again, that will include Q&A and it'll be recorded. However, I highly encourage you to attend the live trainings so that you can make sure you have an opportunity to ask your questions and we can dive into those. Our team will dive into those with you and kind of discuss, and you'll be able to learn from others as they have questions too. The week of November 13th, on Tuesday, again at 1 p.m., we're going to have a feedback session. So what this will really be is a session for you to really come and share some of what you're working on for your campaign, how your campaign's shaping up. There'll really be an opportunity for everybody to learn from each other and be provided feedback and learnings on how you can improve your campaign as you have those final 2 weeks before Giving Tuesday really kicks off. And so this is a great opportunity for us to share and learn from each other after your initial planning sessions. Giving Tuesday is on November 27th, and then ultimately the week following Giving Tuesday, as part of the boot camp, we really want to come back together and see if there's any learnings that we can share collectively, but also so we can really formalize like how we debrief on this so that you can take those learnings and apply them to future campaigns. Again, the goal of this is not simply just to help you drive success on Giving Tuesday, but to provide you and your team value that you can take forward into your future fundraising efforts and ultimately help you raise more money in 2019 and really deeply engage your supporters in your fundraising as well. So we'll be coming together to share some of those learnings. Prior to that, we'll probably send out just a quick kind of like survey where you can kind of jot some of those down so we can kind of take some of those, distill them up, and then also just have an open dialogue with the participants on that date as well. So now we're going to really move into the next part of our training, which is all about how you can really plan a successful Giving Tuesday campaign. So we're going to spend the next 15 or so minutes really diving through this. And I'm going to try to distill this down to the essentials. And so as you think about your Giving Tuesday plan, the next 15 minutes is really going to dive into what must you have to drive success on Giving Tuesday. And this isn't just like what we suggest, but this is kind of accumulated research from other entities that really dig into seeing what drives success on Giving Tuesday. It's also just fundraising best practices. And ultimately, it's things that we've learned from hundreds of organizations that have raised money on Giving Tuesday through our CauseVox platform, but also the other thousands of campaigns that they've run. So these are really kind of the essentials to running an effective campaign. And so they may seem simplistic, but what we've seen is that the thing that's missed the most with successful fundraising is the essentials are skipped over, or they're not thought through enough to really build that foundation that then you can kind of layer other things on top of, including promotion, partnerships, et cetera. So let's dive in. We're really going to be focusing on first kind of some key shifts that we think are important as you think about your Giving Tuesday fundraising that are going to impact it. So these are really kind of macro shifts that we're going to draw back in and really showcase how these are going to impact your Giving Tuesday fundraising and your year-end fundraising, and ultimately any fundraising you do as you move into 2019 as well. We're going to share some do's and don'ts for Giving Tuesday, and then we're going to dive into those essentials, those 4 or 5 things that are really just a must, and some of the best practices behind that. And ultimately, we're going to have a Q&A as well. So the first thing that we always talk about here at CauseVox, because we've just noticed this over the past 8 years, is that the world we're fundraising in is rapidly changing all the time. And so as you go out and really engage with supporters, or as you look at the digital landscape that you have access to, or just even thinking about how your supporters, connect with others, discover new things, and really kind of support and showcase that support to others, has really just changed over the last few years and kind of just continues to change. Whether that's kind of the shift of kind of trust from institution and entities. I think we're at an all-time high of like distrust in institutions of all types. And that includes organizations like yours. And this kind of shift to depending on like-minded community or our friends and family. We're all kind of living in these, for good or bad, like bubbles of influence that when we want to make a decision or we need to make a decision, we're heavily influenced by the peers that we have. And so as we think about fundraising or even engaging others or engaging new people or trying to reach out to new people to support your organization, all of those factors really matter. And so one of the things we've done as a team for our nonprofit audience is really try to define this so that we can have the language or common language that's going to help us think well about kind of the world that we're fundraising in. And so what we define this as, and this is kind of just a collection of research that we've been doing over the past few years, is that we feel like we're living in the connected economy. And so this is where like access to information is now ubiquitous, which has really resulted in a shift of power from organizations to individuals. So how people find out, learn, and discover, and then choose to support things is more heavily influenced by individuals rather than organizations. We see a rapid adoption of mobile or just kind of communications and connection technology in general, where anyone can reach anybody anywhere at any time. And so just the flow of information and the connectivity that has increased has kind of changed again, like how we learn about causes to support. And we can kind of see this over the past few years, whether it's in politics or in kind of global disaster relief, or even just kind of innovation in kind of the social change space is really revolving around this idea of connectivity. And then last but not least, technology has and continues just to transform and connect all aspects of our lives. The lines between online and offline continue to blur, and technology is only going to more rapidly change. And I feel like those trends continue to show that that's going to continue. And so those are some of the things that we have to understand as fundraisers, not only for Giving Tuesday, but just as we think about fundraising in general. And so these shifts really require you to reframe how you approach fundraising, or just at least rethink kind of where your starting points are when you're thinking about designing a fundraising campaign. And additionally, it requires us to really look at our supporters and reframe what the true value of those supporters are. And so we've always valued individuals' finances, or even like organizations like the Rockefeller Foundation or other grant-giving organizations. However, what we're seeing is that the value of other aspects of what those individuals can give or entities can give are becoming more and more important in today's connected economy. And so the value of your supporters' influence and or time have exponentially risen due to the changing landscape that we're living in today. And so as you think about how do I just raise more money, really what we're seeing is fundraising needs to take a step back and say, how do we really raise up the full value of our supporter network and really tap into that holistically? And that's something our team is thinking really hard about, and why we've designed even some of our fundraising tools to help showcase that and bring some of that to life. And we're not there yet, but we're going to continue to drive forward because we feel like it's such an essential point. And this all comes down to that in today's connected economy, attention is the most valuable currency. And so as you're thinking about your Giving Tuesday campaign and structuring that and thinking about your goals and how you're going to promote your campaign, it's looking at how do we actually earn and then value and leverage the attention of our supporters and not take that for granted. Like I mentioned before, and this is a quote by Rob Wu, our CEO and co-founder here at CauseVox. He says, "Today, supporters are hyper-connected. They live inside personal feeds, discover and support causes recommended by their friends, and desire to be part of the change, not merely give to it." And so again, these are all things to keep in mind as we dive into planning our Giving Tuesday campaign, because running a traditional direct response, send out a bunch of things, hey, we're participating, isn't going to work. And so Giving Tuesday, it's important to remember that it's not just about participating, where you're signing up and saying, hey, I'm a part of this boot camp, I'm going to run a Giving Tuesday campaign, and just assuming that that's enough. The second thing we see is that relying on social or kind of one specific channel for your Giving Tuesday promotion will also not be enough. And third, which I think is indicative of kind of the world that we're living in now, is being overly general or providing kind of a general ask or support our organization because we're doing good work or because it's Giving Tuesday is also not going to work. And I think all of these kind of go back to the idea that fundraising in today's connected economy really can't be seen as this transactional relationship of resource, or like this transfer of resources from one entity to another, where it's treated as such. And so as we're thinking about planning your Giving Tuesday campaign, we want to keep that in mind as well. And so instead of doing this, what is it really about? And again, this goes back to something I said at the beginning of the conversation, where Giving Tuesday is about individuals and entities showcasing their generosity and support for various causes. And so our job as fundraisers, as nonprofits, is really to think about how do we actually activate that and then rally those individuals that support our cause or could support our cause to really showcase that and help them participate in Giving Tuesday. And so the ways that we can really do this, and we must do for our campaign to be successful, is really set a clear goal. And as I mentioned, there's a variety of different goals that you could set and how you could really frame those goals, but setting a clear goal is going to help you differentiate your campaign from others and is going to help you more likely create success. If you don't define success clearly up front, it's really, really hard to make a roadmap to that. And organizations that create plans and do that well are the ones that we see celebrating success after Giving Tuesdays or after Giving Tuesday. And others are just kind of frustrated and confused as to why they didn't drive success. And it usually comes back to not defining success clearly up front. The second thing is really focusing on the why of your goal. And so if we're going to set a goal and we're going to ask people to come together in support of our organization's effort, being very clear why. And why can be framed in two different ways, which I found helpful as we've kind of trained and advised nonprofits recently, is that it's not always about, well, why should you give or why am I better than the other options, but rather also showcasing what will happen if you don't accomplish what you're doing. And so why can be framed not only in kind of the positive space, but also in the negative space, and saying like, if we don't reach this goal and we don't do this, this is actually who cares and why that matters. And sometimes framing it both in kind of the positive direction of like, what is the positive outcome, and showcasing what failure looks like is really helpful to help mobilize people forward. The third thing that's really important is telling stories. And so as you think about your fundraising campaign for Giving Tuesday, how do we ensure we frame that as a story that enables people to share that forward? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And then again, it's really about how do you inspire and rally people together, and kind of seeing that as the desired outcome or kind of behavior, rather than just seeing it from a transactional perspective. So we have this fun chart that really says, fundraising that looks like this, which is like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is me, support my cause, and hoping for a 5% response rate really isn't the best approach to Giving Tuesday, but rather helping to build your campaign on relationships that you currently have with your organizations and ensuring that your communication, your promotion, and kind of the spirit or kind of the framing and messaging of your campaign is personal and human. I'm going to skip over these for now. These will all be included in the PowerPoint, but these are just some examples of how some other organizations are kind of using this framework successfully. And these are some of our customers that are really driving success with this approach to their fundraising campaigns, rather than the traditional kind of transactional direct response approach to fundraising. So what are the essentials? I've already mentioned on most of them, but really the most important thing to start with first, and what I would hope that you leave today's presentation kind of either refining or ensuring that you kind of start with, is really defining what your goals are. You know, what are you trying to accomplish? What does success look like for you? If it involves financial metrics, how much are you trying to raise? Why is that important? What are some of the other goals that you might have? So for example, my organization for One GivingTuesday was trying to raise $75,000 to help provide housing, shelter, supplies for 100 refugee families in the Middle East. And our organization's framing for that was focused on that. So that was the primary messaging and goal for our campaign. That's what success looked like externally. However, internally, we did have other goals that we wanted to make sure that we at least activated 100 donors that had supported this type of effort previously. So we wanted to reactivate them and engage them to give a second gift in this effort, and specifically to help fund this program. Other organizations that we've talked to are looking to acquire a certain amount of new donors. If they're trying something new like peer-to-peer fundraising, it might be revolved around how many individuals can they really activate to create a fundraising page and go out and promote that to their friends and family. There's a lot of different ways to frame this, but what's the primary goal? And if there's any secondary goals, being clear across your team what those are and why they matter. The second thing that's really important is to make sure that you frame those goals in a way that is compelling. And so you're packaging them into something that you could actually use externally. And so if our goal is to raise $75,000 to help Syrian refugee families in the Middle East, that's great. And that's very kind of factual and rational. It makes sense. However, what we want to do is be able to kind of package that in a way that allows it to be more of a fundraising appeal rather than just an objective. And so when you're planning your campaign, you really have to kind of connect those goals with your supporters. And so how are we going to translate what we want to accomplish and kind of bridge that gap between where our supporters are or our audience is with our message? So how do you really do that? I think this quote is something that I've shared with a lot of nonprofits over the past 2 years. And it's really helpful because the question becomes is like, well, like we just need to raise more money to drive more impact. What does that even look like? And I feel like the founder of Save the Children really got this right, is that we have, like, our job as fundraisers or nonprofit leaders is really to devise the means of making known the facts in such a way as to touch the imagination of the world. The world's not ungenerous, but unimaginative and very busy. And I think especially in our world filled with distractions, this is even more true, where we can easily get kind of discouraged that like people just don't care about our work, or they don't care about our efforts because they're too busy, dealing with other stuff, or like ours is more intellectually challenging than other causes. And so like, that's the issue. But I think that's like our problem to solve, not necessarily something that's external. And so I love this quote. And this is really what we're trying to accomplish with our fundraising appeal. How do we make sure that what we want to accomplish is presented in a way to our audience that actually sparks and touches their imagination, that's going to get them to respond? And so for GivingTuesday, your fundraising appeal really needs to focus on a few things. You really want to focus on or communicate what you're trying to accomplish, why that matters, and what the impact will be if we're successful. But not only just successful, but what happens if you're not successful? And then clearly tell how someone can take action and join the effort. So these are kind of the structure of what you're trying to accomplish. So it's not just we're participating in GivingTuesday, we're trying to raise $5,000, give to us now. We're really helping to fill that in and make it feel different and really align specifically with your cause and something your audience is going to care about. And so being clear on who you're trying to engage, inspire, and activate for GivingTuesday is also going to be helpful as you craft this. One of the best ways we've seen this really done well is to package your fundraising appeal in the form of a story. And so stories are something that have been connecting us for ages, thousands and thousands of years. And so it's helpful sometimes to basically bridge the gap between, hey, we're trying to raise $75,000 to help 100 refugee families, down to the point of like, what is a refugee family actually going through? And not only that, who's the head of household of this? And so one of the things we did as a part of that campaign was we kind of boiled it down and tried to kind of craft a story of the experience and what someone actually has gone through to get to this point, and how they're not helpless, or we're not just trying to give them a handout, but rather we're trying to enable them to be able to get back on their feet so that they can actually build a new life and create a new opportunity for themselves. But doing that abstractly and saying that's what we're trying to do isn't as helpful as us using a story of an individual who had a thriving business in Syria before the war started, and he had to flee everything and leave everything. And now him and his family are living in a refugee camp. And so being able to frame the story and talk about kind of the nature of that allows us really to connect to that. And so like, I don't know what it's like to be a refugee. However, I was able to connect with those stories, and I was able to share those on with others. And that's kind of how you're able to kind of craft a fundraising appeal that's really going to drive success. So a good story will really help you put a face behind your campaign. It'll draw your supporters in and really show donors how they fit into the story. This is just a quick example, another example similar to the one I already shared. So the next thing we want to talk about is communications and promotional assets. So after you've set your goal, you've built your foundation, you've developed a fundraising appeal that you're really going to use to capture the imaginations of your audience to drive towards that goal, you really want to start planning this out. And so the first thing that we see is that you really want to pre-plan from now until post Giving Tuesday, everything that you're going to do between now and then, and who's going to do it, how are you going to do, or how are you going to make that happen? What's really necessary? What are the deliverables? Really crafting out a clear plan and navigation, kind of navigation path is going to ensure that there's A, alignment across your team, B, you know what you need to do to drive success or set yourself up to drive or have the best opportunity to drive success. And you know, if you miss something and you didn't miss your goals, you knew that that was a part of it. And so clearly outlining what your timeline is going to be super helpful. So here's a quick suggested timeline. This is like big box picture between now and December. And so these are kind of themes that we see that are really important to focus on in these various months. So it's October. We'll be focusing on developing your fundraising plan, your goals, really outlining your communications plan. And if you're going to be doing like peer-to-peer fundraising or seeking out a matching gift from your supporter community, this is something you can do as well. November, this is where you really start focusing on promotion, which is what we're going to be talking about next week, and begin rallying individuals prior or leading up to Giving Tuesday. Then Giving Tuesday, which will kind of give you a map of some of the promotional ideas that we'd have on Giving Tuesday specifically. And then in December, really coming back and showcasing that impact and tying it in with any year-end appeals that you might have as well. So you want to be crafting campaign assets. So once you've determined your goal, really kind of collecting the supporting materials that are going to really help you fuel your campaign. So this could include like photos and videos. It could be maybe developing out a story. It includes creating your fundraising site, which, you know, luckily for participants in this can use CauseVox to develop. And so this is an example of a CauseVox fundraising site from last year, where the Motherhood Collective was able to kind of devise this fundraising site that really helped them drive their campaign forward. You're also going to write any email promotion you have, and then also draft up social posts as well, so that you have that as well. If you need to develop a fundraising video, this is the time to do it as well. This doesn't have to be a full production style video, but something that clearly communicates what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish on Giving Tuesday can have huge impact. Video is one of the most effective ways to do this, especially in our kind of culture that's moving towards video as a preferred medium. And this is a helpful tool to quickly showcase your fundraising appeal and what you're trying to accomplish, and gives your supporters or those that might engage in your campaign something they can also share out on Giving Tuesday as kind of a token of their support and showcasing, hey, this is what I'm supporting on Giving Tuesday. You can get involved in as well. So your dedicated fundraising site is really going to help showcase the goal, your fundraising appeal. It's going to be a central location for all your promotional activities and where supporters are actually going to donate and support your campaign. If you're using CosVox for your fundraising site, it's going to be optimized across all your devices. It's going to also be branded for your organization. So you can really, again, you can use GivingTuesday to help build more loyalty and trust with you and your organization and not kind of get lost in the noise on third-party sites. The other thing that we find really helpful on GivingTuesday, again, because it's a day where people are showcasing their generosity, and it's really about individuals participating in this, you can really enhance your campaigns through the use of something called peer-to-peer fundraising. And many of you may be familiar with this. It's been heavily popularized, but a lot of times it's kind of pigeoned or kind of pinned to things like walks and runs and races and challenges. But things like GivingTuesday are also days that you can use peer-to-peer fundraising to really allow your supporters, board members, other individuals in your community, even participants, volunteers, et cetera, to really help kind of basically give you like a referral and then also help promote that as well. And it's a great way to build engagement, build ownership, but also help you reach new donors and kind of help amplify your campaign on GivingTuesday. And we're going to talk more about peer-to-peer fundraising next week during the promotions training to kind of highlight some of the reasons why we found it really effective. And at CosVox, organizations that use peer-to-peer, not just for GivingTuesday, but in general, typically see that they raise twice as much as they do if they're just doing a traditional promotional strategy for their campaigns. And this is really because brands continue to have a decreased engagement with their content. And this is a specific stat for Facebook, but you can also see increased or decreasing open rates for organizations' emails. And really across all platforms, there's kind of this just decreased engagement, and you have to send more to get what you used to be able to do. However, again, there's an increased response to individuals and recommendations. And so how do you really tap into that? And that's something that peer-to-peer fundraising really does well, is to really kind of unlock that true value of your supporters. And so activating them through peer-to-peer is really helpful. And we see this even in the stats. 85% of donors prefer to be asked by friends and family to make a donation rather than an organization. So one of the last few things that we wanted to kind of discuss here is one of the effective ways to help really boost your GivingTuesday campaign is through the use of a matching gift. And so this is a way that you can help unlock others or really build momentum behind your campaign and kind of create a sense of urgency around your campaign as well. And so if you're able to secure or you're able to restructure kind of a gift that you've already been given as a challenge, that's a great way to help drive more results on GivingTuesday. And one of the things is that matching gifts are sometimes seen as something that is kind of like hard to acquire or other things. And one of the things we saw is that we would just reach out to major donors that we knew were going to support us or who had already supported us and just talk to them about restructuring how we use their gift, or really encouraging them, knowing that they really cared about the work that we were doing, how we could help use how we could use their gift to help actually raise more money. And we never had a major donor turn us down on that. And so sometimes it's just thinking creatively on how you can acquire that major gift or that matching gift, excuse me. Board donations are also great as challenges as well. So this is kind of a preview of next week's training that we're going to be focusing on, is really kind of how do you actually create a promotional timeline that's leading up to GivingTuesday. And so we're going to send this out to you so you have it, but it really provides you kind of a general map. This is basically exactly what I used when I was running GivingTuesday campaigns and what we see a lot of our customers use as they drive towards towards GivingTuesday as well, to really help them build more momentum behind their campaigns. As I mentioned before, we're going to be moving into the next part of kind of today's session. I know we were going over a little bit based on what we expected to do with the initial training part, but we do want to stick around and make sure that we answer your questions. And I know some questions have already come in, but if you have any questions, feel free to drop those in the questions pane. As I mentioned, following this training, we're going to be sending out the recording of today's presentation. And we're also going to be sending out some other resources. So you're going to get that planning guide, a checklist that's really going to be helpful. We're going to provide you a guide on writing emails for Giving Tuesday and some samples that we've developed. We'll send you a few, 1 or 2 example campaign sites so you can see what this actually looks like in the flesh. So what does this look like in the wild? We'll send you 2 examples of that from last year so you can look at those together. And then we're also going to be sending you those Giving Tuesday recorded webinars. And so what we hope is that this kind of toolbox will really help you amplify either the plan you already have to drive success on Giving Tuesday, or really equip you with some other best practices and learnings. And that will be sent out to you individually after today's session, so that you have all that information in one place. So the last thing we want to do during today's presentation is really take any questions that you may have, whether it's regarding kind of the training schedule, the boot camp, or any of the things that we brought up today on how you can actually plan for success. So let me take a look at these questions here, and then we'll kind of dive in. So one of the things I did want to mention as people are asking questions if you do have questions and you're not able to kind of stick around for any extra minutes, you're able to email us directly on this. So my email address is noah@cosvox.com. If you don't remember that, if you look at the invite that I sent you so that you could join this presentation today, you will have my email address in there. And so if you need to reach out at all directly, you're more than welcome to do that. We'd be happy to chat with you and answer any questions you have directly. I know, Joyce, you had a specific question around registration in US states that require registration. How can you legally accept donations on Giving Tuesday? That's something I would that's a little bit outside of our scope for what we can help with here at CosVox. But I would encourage you to kind of explore that question with any kind of legal advice that you have, just because it is something that you want to make sure that if you're not registered to receive donations, if there's any issues around that. I'm also going to consult our team on that to see if there's any other insights. But that does seem like something you would need to think about or like consult on directly with your team to see what potential extra registration steps that you might need to do, or how you can run your campaign even without that. Yeah, so someone asked about the Rockefeller Foundation grant and whether it could be used as a matching gift. And Jeremy from the Rockefeller Foundation shared out. And so if you can see that in the chat, but just to kind of reiterate that verbally, if you're listening to this, is that someone asked, could we use this? And Jeremy said, the donation to the organizations isn't considered a match from our perspective, more of an incentive for participation and a bit of a kickstart for your campaign. If you want to message that as something like Rockefeller putting some money towards your campaign, that should be fine. Whatever language you want to use, you'll still need to email Jeremy directly at jbivens@rockfound.org, and they'll be able to review that as well. So if you have any questions on the Rockefeller specific aspects of this, feel free to reach out directly to Jeremy, and he'll be able to help you kind of navigate that side of it if you want to incorporate that into your campaign. Dave, that's a great question. And I think that is something we can kind of work with you in the one-on-one side. We've worked with other organizations that do that. And so I think it's just trying to find the specific angle that might be helpful to kind of showcase the outcomes of your work without kind of maybe sharing what the other nonprofits are doing, or if there are any constraints in how you can showcase that impact. But that might be something that we can talk to you directly on, Dave, to ensure that we kind of still provide the fundraising appeal, because I think that's the most important part, is that's going to help you really mobilize supporters around your campaign. And really finding that is something that is probably the biggest challenge, as you mentioned. But we can work with you on that directly, especially during onboarding. Or if you want to reach out to me directly, I'd be happy to kind of brainstorm directly with you as well. Looks like that's all the questions that have been coming in at this point. Yeah, absolutely, Dave. You can reach out directly to me and Candace and I, and we'd be happy to chat with you, even if Candace and I can put our knowledge and kind of experience together to really help you drive success on that. But it looks like that's all the questions that have come in. As we mentioned, we're going to be sending this out to everyone that participated. So thank you guys for coming out to this training, even on kind of last minute. The next training is going to be next Tuesday, November 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you have any questions about that training or anything prior to that, feel free to reach out to us. Or if it's anything about the Rockefeller grant and the gift or the grant as part of that, feel free to reach out to Jeremy directly. Thanks again for everyone. And we just look forward to connecting with each of you individually. These trainings are really supposed to provide some best practices and kind of just lay a foundation. But where I think the real value is going to come is in those one-on-one sessions and kind of hands-on experience sharing what we've learned, but also helping you drive success with your specific use case. So thanks everyone for joining us. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And we're going to be talking to you soon. Look for those emails from myself and Candace in the next little while. Thanks everyone.